Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together. Hey, everybody. Alex and I have just been having the greatest discussion. We want to bring you in and start sharing with you what we've been talking about. And for me, it was a reel. I'm pretty sure I saw a reel on this about, it's February, say goodbye to New Year's resolutions. Like, all right, ciao for now. We'll start again next year. And, I was like, what? I mean, that's kind of BS, right? I'm calling it for what it is. It's totally BS because of this beautiful neuroscience work that we do, where you can actually create your reality and you can rewire your limiting beliefs. um, then that's not a New Year's resolution in that sense is not even necessary in that context, because we have the tools where when we set a habit, it's going to be sustainable and long term. Doesn't mean there won't be ups and downs, right? 80-20 rule, right? Like I remember that when you and I were learning to brain prime, that we were like, okay, if we're doing it, our mentor at that time said, if you're doing it 80% of the time, you're going to be okay. It's not about perfection. It's about letting go of the perfection and the hustle and the grind and the struggle, but giving ourselves permission to succeed, right? Giving ourselves the tools that we need to work with our mind, body, and spirit, so we don't have to give up on the habits we would like to have, the habits that set us up for success, right, Alex? I mean, it was so powerful.
Well, and it's fascinating because it's true. Like I've seen, a lot of places will say buy a list. Like February 6th is like the day that a lot of New Year's resolutions fall apart. But here, when I'm looking at it from like a neuroscience perspective, think about this. New Year's resolution, a resolution for the new year. So that makes sense, right? Everyone's feeling excited. They're feeling motivated, right?
Yeah.
And this is a New Year's resolution. You get into February, March, April, May, the year goes on. It's no longer New Year's. So I think the first step too, when we're looking at quote unquote these New Year's resolutions, right? We all have goals. We want changes, right? Is looking at what is the language we're using right off the bat to even set ourselves up for success, right? So I think that we look at neuroscience is the change in language, first of all, and two, realizing it is that journey. This is, for me, it's been like the one thing, like what is my one thing for 2026? What is my one thing for 2025? And having that clarity in that one thing is it 20, because you're now focusing 80%. Hold on. Right? I always get this mixed up.
Yeah.
But the idea
You're right, though. You're focusing on 80% and you're weeding out the distractions. And you and I have talked about this in the past. It's like, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no, right?
Yeah.
And so having that clarity and that simplicity, because what we focus on grows, and also not to the same degree, but what we resist persists. So, if we're wanting the results and we're just constantly facing our system taking us the other direction because it's safe and familiar, then, we've got this constant battle on our hands. So it's changing things so that there's no longer that battle there. It's removing the battle and causing the flow by what we focus on grows, right?
Well, and let's go back to the habit piece you mentioned there, Carol, right? I notice this a lot working with clients, when you look at, okay, so what is a 30, 60, 90-day goal, right, for the quarter? And then you go and look at, okay, so what do you commit to this week? And you look at the commitments for the week and you look at the goals and you're like, it's totally disconnected because a
Yeah.
lot of people are just sort of caught like
Cognitive dissonance. Yeah.
in the reactive phase. It's like, okay, I want this thing, right? I've got this New Year's resolution. I want this. But once, that the motivation sort of dwindles, things do get hard, right? It's going back to that default of ease. And so it's really ensuring that you're really clear on what you do want, whether it's the one thing or what the
Yeah.
focus gets to be for the year. And then looking at defining the habits, right? This
Right.
is a identity that we talk a lot about. It's like if you are the person that has that result, right? So for me this year, it's a big thing about, being a best-selling children's author, right? If I'm a
Yeah.
best-selling children's author, how did they operate? What is the identity? How do they spend their time,
Yeah.
right? And then those things, right? Those habits that come along with that, are they in the calendar? Is
Yeah.
it scheduled? Is it prioritized? Because life is always going to life. And so it is building
Mm,
those habits, right? It's making those automations. It's being really clear on what's important to you. What do you want, right? What do you want to feel, experience? Of course, we always go deep with our clients when it comes to the neuroscience piece, but
yeah.
just generally speaking, to support that. So it does become this neuroscience process
Yeah.
because it isn't just, this lovely news resolution list at the beginning of the year. It's like, no, looking at your year, looking at your your months and your weeks because there's different seasons throughout the
Yeah.
year. It's like, how are you going to spend it? Who do you get to be? And what does it actually look like and embody and build the those automations to show up
Yeah.
in that identity, right? And so I know we geek out on the identity piece because it
Yeah.
all comes from identity. We
We,
geek out
well,
on
I mean, you're really going into the practical, like the practical of the action steps that we take. And now with my own clients, we talk a lot about the action step of less is more, the action step
Mhm.
of rest is productive. And we get to define what rest looks like for ourselves. Maybe it looks like a day at the spa. Maybe it looks like it doesn't mean necessarily that I'm in my bed all day, but if I need that kind of rest, that also unleashes creativity. It unleashes productivity. Every single time I do it, it happens. And if you study those who are at the top in their wealth, billionaires, there's several billionaires in the world, hundreds and now, multiple hundreds. If you look at them and their habits, it's less is more. You cannot, in any way, shape, or form, be trading time for money at that level because we can't even count to a billion in our lifetime. So if I'm going to bring in $1 billion and I'm going to study those habits, what are they doing? What does that look like? It is having the priorities on the calendar, like you're talking about, those practical pieces, which includes your appointments with yourself. It includes paying yourself first. It includes the refreshment that you and your computer need, right? Because I can't keep operating on the computer without some recharge. Why do I think I can do that? So, being able to put those things in place in a way that is then sustainable and buildable, having that success map, that 90-day roadmap in place to know, okay, this is my highest priority. This is what I am focusing on for this quarter, this year. And then, Alex, today with my clients, we brought it all the way back to the hour. And this was inspiration from Myron Golden that, the exercise, which unleashes so many things we can talk about, is name 10 things, name 10 ways you can make $100,000 in 1 hour. And you only have 1 hour. So it's an amazing exercise, right? We can talk about what this unleashes from the neuroscience perspective.
Before we do dive into that, Carol, I want to revisit to something you just said there, and you talked about my biggest priority. I think it's really important to reiterate that because if you're listening, you're most likely a very powerful, involved leader, which means that you may wear many different hats. You might be involved in multiple businesses or different projects. And it's really being clear on your biggest priority. And then it is, as Carol said, like making those appointments and keeping those appointments with yourself, right?
Yeah.
And understanding, right? Like your biggest priority might not be somebody else's biggest priority. And so you get to use your voice and be an advocate for creating that space for
For
things that are really
yourself.
important, right? And
Yeah.
it's so easy, right? It's like you're either moving your vision forward or you're moving somebody else's vision forward. And so it's
Yeah.
really standing in your confidence and your courage to ask for support, to delegate,
Yeah.
to create that space and respect that time. If you realize, they say if you work from home and you realize you get distracted easily at home, book yourself a coffee date over
Yeah.
at the coffee shop, which
Yeah.
can also be very powerful when it comes to focus and
Yeah.
productivity. Really think about for yourself what's going to set you up to win, to prioritize what's important to you so that
Yeah.
you can move the things that like your big priorities for you and have that confidence to check in when
Yeah.
offers arrive to see, as Carol said, is this a heck yes or is this a heck no? And there's a confidence piece, right? Again,
Yeah.
those that are operating at the top there, they have clarity on what's important to them. They
Mm.
let everybody know what's important to them. Like there's a communication piece there, and they really ensure that everything they say is to do align.
Yeah.
So now go to your exercise, Carol, which unravels a whole bunch of other, you know, internal dialogue, right? When you're being asked, when you
Mm.
think about how you're spending your time, and if you had, if you had 1 hour, right,
Yeah.
10 ways to make it was sorry,
$100,000.
$100,000.
Yeah.
Just think about that for a second. Like, just pause for a second as we ask you that. Like, what comes up?
Yeah.
You a lot of information internally around your beliefs and thoughts, especially thinking about your time, your expertise, and how to make that amount.
Mhm.
It's all going to come flooding when you
Yeah.
commit to doing this exercise, which we invite you to do this exercise because it's
Yeah.
extremely powerful.
And when it floods, record it, capture those limiting beliefs because those are things that are operating all the time without your normal awareness. Now, maybe something you are aware of will come to mind immediately, but quite often it's the things that we're unaware of. And over 90% of what we internally believe is driving our daily decisions. And when we're unaware of what those things are, that's when we're being affected with faulty programming, right? And in reality, I heard something the other day was really good. Limiting beliefs are our teachables. They're the things that we've learned from. If we really are putting them in their best light, they're gifts to us. So as you're starting to do an exercise like this, and things that came up for my client were, well, that's not possible in reality. That's what one of my clients said. And the other said, oh, I just realized like flood of emotions came up, and feelings like clinching almost. And then another client like breezed through it. She's like, yeah, I'm actually thinking bigger. I'm thinking billions. I'm thinking billion. And knowing her, she will do it. So it's something where it depends where you're at on your journey, but it's a great exercise to find out and uncover what is hidden in there and what you may be operating by that's holding you back from those resolutions that you're wanting to sustain and have ongoing in your life to write a new story and to set yourself up for success. And when you come and work with me in my program, this is one of the things we do. I hold your hand and take you through this, and we go really deep through the process of uncovering what you can do, what your possibilities are, what the story is that you desire to write. And we started off by you coming down here where I am in Chile right now, where we do a complete nervous system reset, a recalibration, and recalibrating your abundance. And it really spreads to your whole life, doesn't it, Alex? We know that with the work we both do and the neuroscience that we both provide for our clients. And the clients that Alex has on this neuroscience journey are going through the same process. Yeah.
We understand, right? To break through that next level, right? You are the creator of your thoughts create your reality. So if you are seeking, financial abundance or that next level of finance in 2026, this is a beautiful exercise to work through, because really it's those thoughts and those beliefs that are going to hold you back. When you get into this certain level of finances, it's really the beliefs, because yes, hustle and hard work will help you get to a certain point,
Level.
but
Yeah.
that it's really what's going on between here that's going to make all the difference to help you break that glass ceiling into that next level. And it
Yeah.
really is like when we talked about in Kathy's interview last week, it's
Mm.
looking at things differently, right?
Yeah.
It's really looking at how you have money working for you. How
Yeah.
are you using your time? Right. I mean, that's the first thing that I think, Carol, when you asked that exercise, it was like, okay, for 1 hour, how am I spending the time? What is the best use of my time in an hour period that can create, the biggest financial possibility, right?
Yeah.
And when you start to think about that, right? And you think about your time, you think about their delegation, you think about your 80%,
Yeah.
you really start to look at your time and your wealth and your finances very, very differently, seeing how it can work for you, how
Yeah.
you can stay in that lane of passion that Kathy talked about, and
Yeah.
how you're able to make a big impact and embrace that the happiness and the joy that comes from this, right?
Yeah.
Because I ultimately, at the end of the day, I know you and I, Carol, we stand for you, leader,
Yeah.
to like have that 10 out of 10 life, feel that fulfillment, have that happiness, be in your zone of genius, focus on the things that matter to you, that lift you up, and that you get to enjoy life, right? You have one life to live, you get to live it to the fullest. And so what does that really look like to you? And how do you get to prioritize yourself, your goals this year, putting that time on the calendar,
Yeah.
operating from that, the identity of the person who already created, and asking yourselves those bigger questions that, yes, may make you feel uncomfortable, but it's in the uncomfortable that you get information that's going to help you get to the next level. And Carol has a beautiful in-person experience in her retreats over in Chile, followed by, the experience for a year to really unpack and dive deep to support you in hitting that expansion when it
Yeah.
comes to your wealth in all areas of your life.
And let me tell you, you deserve it. Thank you, Alex. What a beautiful way to wrap us up and share how we can be unleashed and unstoppable with the things that we are wanting to do, our resolutions and the story we're writing in our lives. We'll see you guys next week. Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.